Tonight, I want you to listen carefully, not just with your ears, but with that quiet part of your mind that wakes up when the room goes dark, because this is not a story meant to be rushed. It is meant to sink in slowly the way fear does when it realizes you are alone and paying attention. People think fear arrives suddenly, like a jump scare, like a scream in the dark, but real fears patient. Real fear takes its time. It sits with you. It grows familiar, and then one day you realize it has always been there long before you noticed it. This story begins the same way most fears begin, quietly, unnoticed, beneath something ordinary, beneath a bed. I remember the exact feeling of lying awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to the house breathe. Every home has a rhythm. At night the pipes whisper, the walls settle, the floor creaks softly, and normally those sounds are comforting. But when you are a child alone in the dark, they feel like signals, like proof that something else is awake too. I never saw anything under my bed, and yet I knew something was there, not in the way you know a chair is there or a door is there, but in the way you know someone standing behind you even before you turn around. The space under the bed felt wrong. It felt occupied, as if emptiness itself had weight and intention. And I learned it very early not to move, because movement meant noise, and noise meant acknowledgement, and acknowledgement felt dangerous. I would hold my breath until my chest burned, convinced that if I stayed still long enough, whatever was under the bed would forget about me, or maybe lose interest. But fear does not lose interest. Fear studies you. Fear memorizes the way you breathe, the way your heart races, the way your thoughts spiral in the dark. And the more nights passed, the more certain I became that the shadow under the bed was listening, waiting, learning. I tried telling myself it was imagination, because that is what adults say. Imagination is safe, imagination is harmless, but imagination does not feel patient. Imagination does not feel deliberate. Imagination does not make the room feel smaller and the darkness feel closer. And the worst part was the silence, because silence gave the shadow space to exist. Years passed, and I learned to sleep with one foot hanging off the bed, not because I was brave, but because I wanted to test the darkness, to challenge it. And every time I did, my muscles would tense, waiting for something to grab me, and nothing ever did. And that somehow made it worse, because whatever was under the bed was choosing not to touch me. And choice implies intelligence. Choice implies restraint. Choice implies time, and time is something fear always has. Childhood ended the way it always does, quietly, without announcement. And I left that room behind. I left that bed behind. I told myself I outgrew the fear, and for a while I believed it, because life gets loud. Schoolwork, relationships, responsibilities, all of it fills your head and leaves little room for shadows. But fear does not disappear. It adapts. It becomes background noise. It becomes anxiety. It becomes that unexplained tension in your shoulders, that tight feeling in your chest, that sense that something is wrong even when everything looks fine. And then one night, years later, I woke up suddenly, not from a nightmare, but from awareness. That same awareness I had as a child. My room was different. The bed was different, but the darkness felt exactly the same. Heavy, quiet, intentional. My body froze before my mind could catch up, and I knew without looking that the space under the bed was no longer empty. I did not see a shape. I did not see as I did not see movement, but I felt watched, and being watched is a physical sensation. People do not talk about it enough. Your skin tightens, your breathing changes, your thoughts slow down, as if your mind is trying not to be noticed. And that is when the realization hit me. The shadow never stayed under the old bed. It never belonged to a place. It belonged to me. It followed me quietly, patiently, waiting for the moment life slowed down enough for me to notice it again. And once you notice fear, after pretending it is gone, it feels stronger, more personal, almost offended by your denial. I wanted to look under the bed to prove to myself that nothing was there, but fear does not want proof. Fear wants uncertainty because uncertainty gives it room to grow. So I stayed still, listening to my heartbeat, wondering if the shadow could hear it too, wondering if it remembered me, wondering if it was the same presence from my childhood or something that had grown alongside me, fed by years of silence and avoidance. And the more I thought about it, the clearer it became that the bed was never important. The bed was just a symbol, a boundary between what we allow ourselves to see and what we refuse to acknowledge. The space under the bed is where we put the things we do not want to deal with, old fears, unspoken pain, memories without words. And when we turn off the lights, those things feel closer because they are closer, they are inside us. Fear is not a creature waiting to attack. Fear is a reminder. Fear is a reflection. Fear is the mind asking to be acknowledged, and the more we ignore it, the louder it becomes. In the quiet moments at night, when the world stops distracting us and we are left alone with ourselves, I finally understood why the shadow never reached up, never dragged me down, never showed itself, because it did not need to. It was not trying to hurt me. It was trying to be seen, and that is the most terrifying truth of all, because it means the shadow under the bed is not your enemy. It is your unresolved self waiting patiently in the dark. And every night when the lights go out and the silence settles and you feel that familiar chill, that subtle pressure in the room, remember this: the shadow is not beneath the bed. The bed is beneath the shadow, and the shadow will wait as long as it needs to, because eventually everyone lies awake in the dark and listens and wonders. And when that moment comes, the fear does not scream, it does not run, it does not attack. It simply reminds you that it has always been there, and it always will be, waiting just beneath the surface of the light.